Hi everyone, Matt Bernier, Dan Illman, taking a look back at the Sunday featured event from Santa Anita, the John Henry Turf Championship. They're going to start going down the hill, and as we can see as they break from the gate, you're going to have Prime Attraction, horse that we've come to know a little bit. He's got some talent, but he's a little bit of a goofball. He's going to show it again here in this spot. He's going to be the one to cut out the fractions.
Looked like the controlling speed in this spot, and he gets away to a fairly easy lead under Victor Espinoza. The two main protagonists on the tote board, the number one, It's in the Post, is going to settle in that beautiful pace-tracking, ground-saving pocket spot, and the number 8, Hunt, who beat It's in the Post in their previous encounter at Del Mar, is tracking 3 wide. A fair trip for both.
You see Prime Attraction on the front end. Frank Conversation is taking up the stalking position through rather tepid fractions, all things considered. 24 for the quarter, 48 and 1 for a half mile. You brought up It's in the Post and Hunt. They're third and fourth right now. It's in the Post down on the inside underneath Tyler Bays, and you get Hunt on the outside, about 3-path right now in the clear for Flavian Pratt.
When they faced each other at Del Mar, Hunt had the ideal trip, and It's in the Post was sort of shuffled back towards the back of the pack, finished with a tremendous amount of gusto. And I think you and I agreed that in the rematch, It's in the Post would beat Hunt if they got a fair trip, and it finally played out the way we expected.
Meanwhile, toward the back of the pack, you've got a number of horses, familiar names, up with the Birds, who has been around for quite some time, Inordinate, who we've seen race in the past. Chicago Style was a bit of a fresh face in here. He is bringing up the rear, and I suppose, all things considered, not a lot of pace. He didn't run terribly.
This race is dominated by horses up close to the pace. The fact that Chicago Style is going to at least make a little bit of a dent late is, I think, a good sign for him. He's a fairly lightly raced horse, and I think he passed the class quiz that was presented to him in this spot.
Meanwhile, on the front end, you still have Prime Attraction cutting it out. Frank Conversation comes to his throat latch. Hunt looks like he's getting ready to loom, and Tyler Bays is just loaded with horse right now, and It's in the Post, nowhere to go. He's finally going to angle out and split horses, but guess what? Prime Attraction, he's a tough cookie to pass, but you see him, he's so goofy with the lead changes.
He's on his right lead right now, and Victor Espinoza after the race said that this horse might have beaten himself, because you're going to see there he changes back to his left lead. He's going to change again right there to his right lead, and perhaps all of those little quirks in his stride contributed to him losing momentum and thus losing this bob.
It's in the Post wins as your 8-5 favorite in the John Henry Turf Championship. $5.20 on the win end. Prime Attraction $6.80 to place. Frank Conversation $5 to show. $1 exact to 50.80. 50-cent try $46.35. It's in the Post has done a lot of good things for Jeff Mullins and company. He earns a 102 buyer here in the John Henry. You see now he's at 6 for 29 lifetime. He's got just about $700,000 in career earnings. I think it's also worth noting this race was at 1.25 miles. The Breeders' Cup Turf is going to be at 1.5 miles at Del Mar. Del Mar, just because he doesn't have a win there yet from, I believe, 10 starts, that doesn't mean that that's necessarily indicative of this horse not being able to take to the course. Keep in mind, for the longest time, he was campaigned at 8, 8.5, and 9 furlongs.
I won't blame the Del Mar Turf course if It's in the Post does not run well in the Breeders' Cup Turf. I will blame the competition. This is a horse that was coming into this race in very, very sneaky good form. His United Nations was a really good performance where he dueled throughout with Beach Patrol, who we know what he has done since that race, and the pace compromised both of those horses. Of course, the race at Del Mar against Hunt, he was compromised by trouble and was arguably best in that race. Here he got the dream situation. It worked out for It's in the Post. I think this is probably the best It's in the Post can run, and I'm not sure it's good enough to win the Breeders' Cup against an international cast.
If you're Jim Cassidy, how aggravating and just crazy must this horse drive you, Prime Attraction? Because we've all known for a long time that he's got some talent. He can run. It's just, it doesn't seem like it makes a difference. He's always going to do this.
Well, how tempted is Cassidy now maybe to try something from an equipment standpoint, maybe putting blinkers on, maybe working on a bid a little bit, because this is just what he is, and if you watch his races, he's going to swap leads a dozen times in a 1.25 mile race, and does that take some of the starch out of you? Some horsemen may believe it will. It may, again, cause you to lose momentum at a key juncture. It seemed like everything was going well from him into the stretch. He was digging in, and he faced the first test from It's in the Post, and he faced it very well. And then, again, he was just very awkward in the stretch, and I think that's what hurt him. If you want to make the case that he's continuing to mature, that next year is a 5-year-old, he will find it all, that's a perfect argument to make. to me, a very small percentage of those kind of horses ever actually do it.
Frank Conversation, all things considered, had a beautiful trip in here. He sat just off the pace. He had every opportunity, and when the real running started, he backed up.
Is this a little far for him?
Probably.
1.25 miles against top older horses. I mean, this was a good trip sitting on the outside. He had every chance turning into the stretch. Not only was he turned away, that last 16th of a mile was very, very ugly. He was tired.
You look at some other runners in here. We know inordinate at this point in his career.
Runs the same race every time.
Chicago style, he may be the one with some upside still. We don't know quite what he could be, and you get some more pace signed on. Maybe he comes on with a run. What do you do with Hunt? This was a disastrous performance from this horse. Give him a breather?
I think he needs a break right now, Matt, because he had done so many good things. Boy, one bad race should not take away all the wonderful things that Phil D'Amato has done with Hunt, because as we talked about in the stakes preview, for the longest time, he was merely considered a downhill turf specialist. At his best, the quirky 6.5 furlong configuration at Santa Anita, and D'Amato amazingly turned this horse into a longer distance specialist, capable of getting this good trip. Yes, he lost some ground with the 3-wide trip here, but he's not supposed to falter badly, and I wonder if all those tough races this year have finally taken its toll on Hunt. I think he needs a little bit of a break.
It's in the post. It looks like it's on to the Breeders' Cup Turf. He wins the John Henry Turf Championship with a 102 buyer.